All right, Bobby. So the red light just came on. A lot of people get nervous and bail because they're just like, this is high pressure podcasting over here. You feeling all right? You want to go forward?
I feel good. I feel
He feels
ready.
good. He's going
I'm
forward.
primed.
Well, let's start off. Let's hear your 90-second pitch. How do you kind of tell people what you guys do and who you are?
So we are the first and only double blind whiskey tasting experience. Double blind means you don't know what it is from the beginning. And then at the end, we do the reveals. Single blind is you know what they are. You don't know the order, but we are the only double blind experience. So we're the first, we're innovative in the way that we did it. And what happens is every quarter, our members, it's really a membership and a subscription. They get a badass soft touch box, gold leaf magnet with a ribbon pull. They got it. Right. And then there's samples A, B, C, and D. And you don't know what they are until you get to the QR code. There's a tasting table. There's a reveal. It'll tell you everything about it, the age, the proof, the type of whiskey, the aroma, the flavors, the tasting notes, the finish. And you can buy a full bottle. There's actually now we integrated a game so you can guess the age, the proof, and the type of whiskey. And you'll actually get a score that tells you how accurate your palate is. So that engagement, the members are loving it. But we're also finding out what people like so we can build a recommendation engine for other things in the future. So we are currently a whiskey subscription company. We're raising money right now because we want to be the kings of blind tasting. We want to expand tequila. We want to expand into restaurants. We want to expand into hotels. We have a whole, game plan to go beyond just the whiskey subscription model.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I am a bourbon I have a subscription. I think it's to Pour More, one of those, and every
Okay.
month I get my bottle and I'm like, all right. And that's about as far as it goes. I get it, I open it, I drink some of it, and then it goes up in the shelf and I pull it out later. So it feels like you're taking that concept and like just gamifying that entire scenario where I would actually be like more involved in opening, drinking, and moving on with my day.
Absolutely. And, the biggest difference is, so there's other companies out there that do alcohol subscriptions. Ours is curated and a little bit more. We're featuring brands that you literally can't buy or try in any other way. If we do get a craft brand that's really well distributed, we get a special release. Like we just got Cobalt. Cobalt's everywhere, as far as a craft brand goes. But I'm like, do you guys have something special? So we got a millet release from them that normally is $100. Our members are getting it a month before anyone else, and they're paying $25.
Wow. Wow. So what's the origin story? How did you get into this? Where's the starting point to where you got to here?
My backdrop, I've been an entrepreneur ever since, I got out of college. I went to USC, football scholarship. I was in the business scholars program and I was the first player to get in the film school there. So when I got out, I started an education company that worked with foster kids. And it gave me a fleet of tutors by having that partnership with a nonprofit. And then, I got into test prep, and while I was doing that, that gave me the ability to take other risks. So I've made independent films and, mainly documentaries. I've been a screenwriter by trade for the last 20. And I made a documentary called The Business of Amateurs that actually played a pivotal role in NIL. So I'm on the oversight committee for the nonprofit that created all the NIL laws. And 5 minutes of my film played for the state Senate hearings and for the Supreme Court. So, 5 years after we made the film, boom, we got NIL. And then, COVID hit and the film projects died and test prep died and everything was, you'd only do so many accent walls and install so many bidets. And my buddy was doing blind tastings to kind of connect us while we were all isolated. And I'd done it with wine before. I'd never done it with whiskey. And I thought it was so much cooler than when I'd done it with wine. I didn't realize how nuanced whiskey really was. And I called him. I'm like, this feels like a business. He's like, yeah, okay. I'm like, nobody's ever done this before. And I quickly figured out why, because I called, here's just a great life hack. If you guys ever want to get legal advice, you can call generally any attorney and do an hour-long consultation for free. So I did 17 free hour-long consultations with different alcohol beverage control attorneys. And I got one that came up with a way to do it. I then just took other pieces of information from some of those interviews and I came up with a way to do it, raised the money, spent all 2021 getting our branding, building the website, getting all the key partnerships. The reason nobody's done this before is, we're not in a basement with a funnel. You got to be 3-tier compliant. It's a restrictive space. And it's interesting. Like there is a catch-22. Like you have to be doing a certain amount of volume before you can even get into shipping alcohol, before you can get certain licenses and certain permits and stuff like that. So we had a lot of fulfillment partners until we got to a higher volume. So we launched in 2022. We had about 250 members. And then we've grown steadily 22% every quarter since. So now we're at almost 4,000 members. We're in 44 states. By the end of the year, we'll probably have about 5,000 members. So we're growing exponentially. and we scaled at this rate without taking on debt, which I'm really
Nice.
proud of. That was really the goal, was to, can we get to 5,000 members without taking on debt, and can we be really lean? And the secret sauce isn't like our soft touch, our
Hmm.
curation, like the customer service is off the charts. I like to say that all of those are all factors, but the number one factor is the FOMO. People don't want to miss out on what the next lineup is, and we're not just putting like Maker's Mark and Jack Daniels in a box, or like the ones that you're getting from the subscription you're a part of.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can probably go to a liquor store and get those, and you can probably get them cheaper, right? So ours is a little bit more special than that, and we've got a massive loyalty with our members.
Yeah. And what was kind of the first steps though in terms of reaching out and getting these partnerships and starting to kind of put this whole plan together? Like, how are you sort of navigating that? What were you telling people? What was that first pitch kind of like?
Whenever I've made a film, or, had a script project or a documentary, I have a bunch of friends in different industries, and I always just pitch people to just gauge interest. I'm like, do you think this is a
Hmm.
good idea? Like, am
Yeah.
I, just kind of, am I in a vacuum right now? And I just think it's a good
Hmm.
idea. And sometimes people are like, that's a dumb idea. People are like, that's an amazing idea. And sometimes you get mixed results. And I went out and I pitched about 15 friends, just the concept, to
Hmm.
make sure I wasn't crazy. And 14 out of the 15 said, if there's a chance for me to invest, let me know. And that was the biggest indicator that I'm like, okay, we got something. So then I just had to solve all the problems. So there's a big barrier to entry. And look, I mean, making custom glass, making custom packaging, you can't just call distilleries and be like, we want you in the box. You have to like build up a reputation. So we had to find avenues around that. I mean, we've
Hmm.
since partnered with Fred Minnick. He's the biggest whiskey critic in the industry. The Oscars of the spirits world are called the Ascot Awards, which are the only company he's ever partnered with. So our December release coming up is a special release. Our members get it without having to pay a premium. And so that's given us a lot of cachet. We're getting ready to go visit. We do an annual whiskey trip. We visit past distilleries and new up and comers. So we're going to start in Atlanta, go all the way up to Virginia and DC. And we got 23 distilleries to visit in 8 days. And it's really cool because, we used to just constantly call people. Now, I mean, we get 10 distilleries that reach out to us, every month. We get, tons of bottles from them, and we don't choose brands, we choose whiskey. So we even blind everything, people can't buy their way into the lineup. We don't take marketing fees because we don't have to.
Hmm.
And we want to keep.
What's been the like most surprising thing that maybe you didn't think of when you were starting this in terms of how people are experiencing it as they're going through doing the blind testing? Like what's the is there something that you're like never would have thought people would do this or you know what I
Uh,
mean? That's interesting.
yeah, there's some people that literally drink it and never use the reveal. I thought,
Mm,
that doesn't make any sense from my standpoint, but I've talked
right.
to people that are like, yeah, we never look at the reveal. And I'm like, really? Like, I would be really annoyed if like I just got sent samples and I never knew what they were.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's been surprising. I think it's surprising also, when you're dealing with alcohol and there's an alcohol signature and there's certain processes that people are like surprised by that. And so you have to create all these, basically you have to kind of coddle some people in the sense of like keep sending them notifications, give them avenues to
Mm,
send it to access points and to
yeah.
figure that out so it doesn't become a headache. And so you kind of have to train new people because we have a lot of people that are experts and have been in the bourbon game for a long time. And then we have a lot of new people that are really trying to discover their palate. I mean, blind tastings are about removing the bias and that we get with prices and bottles, or, oh, it's a
Hmm.
bourbon rye. People think they love bourbon. Well, I got some ryes that'll blow your mind. I got some single malts that'll blow your mind too.
Hmm.
But there's an educational component and really discovery and also just a communal aspect. So, great whiskey is meant to be shared. There's nothing better than getting together with friends and sharing. It's like you find that new song and you share with somebody,
Yeah.
it's like that. It's that same thing. And not only can you share this bottle, you can share a bottle with them that they've never heard of, but they should have. Distribution really has a big stranglehold, that middle tier that producers have to pass through distributor before a retailer can give it to a consumer. And that distribution really controls who gets the shelf space for off premise and who gets the shelf space for on premise. And that's why, like right now, we're raising money specifically to get into a restaurant model. And what's interesting about like our model, the barrier to entry to do what we're doing, there's nothing proprietary in terms of, we didn't invent a blind tasting. You are going to have to figure out a way to create the partnerships and all the key things that we've done. And there's a big barrier to entry for that. And now you got to beat us, right? The restaurant model, we've come up with a way that actually keeps anyone from doing what we're about to do.
Mm,
And it's
interesting.
unique. There's no supply chain involved. the way that we've been able to uplift these small American businesses and these craft brands and, in the industry, it's called liquor on the lips. It's the hardest thing to do is to actually get people to try a product that they haven't tried before. So we become a great ally for all these brands that we love and love us back. And now we've got another way to not only uplift them through a restaurant model and get them into restaurants, but to uplift restaurants too. COVID really changed buyer behavior in the sense that, we're doing DoorDash and Postmates. I do it all the
Mm,
time too. So they're getting that volume of orders, but they're not getting the foot traffic. And what that means is the servers aren't happy, the turnaround's happy, like
mhm.
is higher. So we're gonna give them a tool that gives them a new blind lineup at our restaurants every single month, and it gives people a reason to come back in. We're going to be able to transfer the FOMO that we have with our members to the restaurant.
That's cool. That's cool. So, I've seen the news articles. I'm assuming you have as well as just younger people are not consuming alcohol, maybe not even consuming bourbon as much. How does it look in your world? Are those articles, giving us a true insight? I mean, I'm a subscriber. I also run a men's club here in Detroit, so I've got a bunch of men around. It's foreign in my land, but how does it look in your world when you're starting to see kind of the younger generations coming up and getting into the spirits world?
Well, younger generations like in tequila, which is one of the reasons why we're expanding to tequila. And I always tell people we're not a whiskey company, we're an experience company. So if you look at like the fourth quarter of last year and the first quarter of this year is maybe some of the worst quarters in over a decade for the whiskey industry.
Mm,
Those were our two best quarters.
mm.
So we still have not tapped into the full audience of what we can get into just in whiskey. Tequila's white hot. We got a way to get into rum, into gin, and to scotch. We're going to expand into that the restaurant model actually out at a few places. And what's been really surprising with that is how many young people are doing it because they may not be this big whiskey person, but they want an experience. And we're giving them that. We're giving them the game. And we're giving an educational component. And I'm not even really a big gin person. I was at a place and there was a flight. Everybody loves a flight. I love a flight, right? And then now it's a blind flight and there's a game. It's like I'm in. Young people actually like that. So I always thought the demo that we were going to get at the restaurants were going to be very similar to what our members are, which is mostly that 35 to 65, mostly
Mhm.
men. We actually have
Yeah.
a ton of women that are members
Mhm.
and a ton of couples that do it together. And the restaurant model is great because the gamification is now challenging the people that are there to see who has the better palate. So that gamification is elevating it and it's bringing in the younger audience too. So like I said, they want experiences and we're giving that to them.
So, and then how do you sort of see just where is growth in your world outside of, I know you talk about the restaurant model, but where do you see kind of these big milestones or KPIs that you're trying to hit maybe in the next year, 3 years, or maybe even 5 years out?
Yeah, I mean, the big part of what our raise is because we've been just growing at a really responsible but really fast rate. You can grow too fast. I mean, the supply chains and the tariffs and all that other stuff. The restaurant model is a killer solution because there's no supply chain to what we're doing.
Right, right.
We're basically converting our tasting table into a placemat and giving them that tool, and it's a turnkey blind flight that they can do at any point. So our new KPI that we're going to be targeting is really restaurant growth, mainly because it's massive margins, and we're going to get a piece of the whiskey sales too. So it's a way to double dip. It's a way to marketing. The brands are going to be giving up the same vig that they normally give in the process. We still want to hit the membership growth that we're having. It's just when we get into tequila, we want to hit it harder. So I want to get 2,000 tequila members right off the bat. So we need to make sure that we're utilizing the data that we have from our marketing to really take advantage of that. Expand it into corporate spaces. We already do a ton of corporate gifting for people as well as moderated tastings. So we're expanding and doing more of that for event planners. So the sky's the limit. I mean, I see our 3 to 5 years, you always have that 1, that 3, that 5, that 7-year plan. In 3 years, I see our whiskey subscription actually being the smallest part, not the smallest part of the company, but one of the
Yeah.
minimal parts of our company. We've established a great brand, a fun brand, a cool brand, and creating this experience is going to allow us to expand not just in other spirits, but in other ways to utilize the blind tasting and really be the king of blind tastings.
You approach and think about marketing in today's world with the amount of channels and just noise that is just in the space? How do you guys sort of think about it, maybe plan about it, talk, how are you thinking maybe about Q1 or Q4 holidays? Like, just what's the general conversations around marketing in your space?
I mean, it's just interesting how fast it's constantly changing. You have to stay on
Hmm.
top of it. You got to be a data person. You got to understand the numbers. I mean, when we started, I actually didn't have a marketing budget. I had one, but I didn't have a big marketing budget initially because we had a big word of mouth plan. We partnered with a local radio DJ, and I had never done e-commerce before, so I didn't want to just hurry up and screw it up.
Hmm. Yeah.
But, when I was in business school, it was what are the features, advantages, and benefits of the product, right? And now
Hmm.
it's, yeah, what's the
Yes.
problem are you solving? We're
Yeah. Yeah.
taking a step further. We're challenging the consumer, but there's CRO, there's SEO, there's pay-per-click, there's social, there's all these different ways to do it. There's gifting platforms, and we're dipping our toe into a lot of them. I'd say the thing that I think is been the only mistake we've ever made in marketing is hiring publicists.
Mm. Mm.
I'm our best publicist. I got a couple students that I give real experience to and I pay them.
Hmm.
Part of having that education company, I cherry pick some of the top students. And I'll tell you, they crush, like I'm talking Twix crush in terms of the output of what any publicist has ever done for us.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how, you can go create your own value and your own marketing. And that has totally changed.
Hmm.
And the problem is they constantly change and then they just
Yeah.
change and they don't tell anybody what they changed and how to
Right.
react to it. So
Yeah.
like right now you can just put up an ad, but if they see me in the ad, they're going to sell to people like me. So you
Hmm.
have to really diversify the people on there, the different pillars, and whether you're doing education, whether you're doing a know-how, like you have to become educated on how these platforms work. And then, SEO is critical. Like if you're going to start any company, like building on SEO. And then
Hmm.
once again, like SEO keeps changing. And it used to be AI is bad and now it's good. And then it's like, you
Yeah.
need to do
Yeah.
it the right way. And so there's all
Right.
these
Yeah.
it's complicated, but I really like that stuff. I think it's a lot of fun and I think it's interesting. Luckily, we haven't made a lot of marketing missteps, but Q4 is always big. So
Hmm.
you always have to ramp up. And you really, if you want to be smart, you want to think about when you have that big Q4, don't just blow it all in the first quarter on a bunch of risks. You need to make that last the whole year because you're going to have us, whiskey in the summer, our third quarter. We still grew in membership
Hmm.
and we always do in the third quarter, but it's a softer quarter. It's hot out. People aren't thinking about whiskey, and now it's the fall, and there's football, and so you
Right.
start
Right.
gearing towards that, and you start tailoring different landing pages for gift giving and
Hmm.
corporate, and once again, that synergizes not only who you're targeting but also your FTO. So there's a lot
Hmm.
of factors that go into e-commerce, and I'm a quick learner, So when I get in something, the reason I did all of our marketing initially before I passed it off onto a team. I mean, I kept hiring teams and I kept firing them because I'm like, you guys aren't beating what I did and I suck.
Yeah.
So like, you know what I mean? But I did that so I knew what the numbers meant. I knew what was good. And that way somebody couldn't gaslight me saying that
Hmm.
it's this or it's that.
Right.
And then
Right.
taking ownership. There's some things that are in my control and having a film background, be able to shoot a lot of stuff and
Hmm.
taking, kind of steering that a little bit more rather than just assuming some marketing team is going to know my brand as well as I do.
Right. Right. How about just in terms of personal growth? I mean, you've been through a number of stages. What do you think has been just the biggest lesson or the biggest thing that you really learned launching Blind Barrels?
The biggest lesson, since I've always been an entrepreneur, I've always known what risk taking is.
Hmm.
4 a.m. when you wake up. And like right now I'm doing with the government shutdown. So, I have had to deal with, because there's a lot of legal stuff that we use government
Sure.
entities in order to do what we need to do. So I've come up with solutions for that. And so I'd say knowing that when I wake up early and I can't go back to sleep because I've got these problems that I can't solve, I'm getting better at going back to sleep and hanging those problems over on the side. I'm getting better at gratitude,
Mm.
being grateful. I think we kind of get, if I would have, you know, 4 years ago when we launched, or really 3 years ago when we launched, if I would have said, oh, where we are now, I would have been so over the moon. And yet you get to that point and then you're going, oh, but I'm not here yet. You're not
Right.
at this
Right.
next spot. And I remember we made a film with the guy and big producer. I won't name his name. And he was like, I'm in therapy like 3 days a week. So I'm like, dude, you're a billionaire. What do you mean you're in therapy? And he's like, I have to go to stop from wanting more. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess that's a nice problem to have, but it's not like basically that insatiable and happiness and, you know, being present for your family. I think that's the hardest thing for me because, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't clock out. You're always thinking about the company. You're always thinking about the people you're working with. You're making sure everybody's motivated and everybody's on the same side. So, or you're trying to solve problems that you're dealing with or ones that haven't happened yet.
Hmm.
And you're thinking about all these things. And what happens is when you're drifting and thinking about the future, you're not present, you're not focused, and ultimately, eventually you're not content. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I still struggle with it on the
Hmm.
daily. But then you get these little wins and I now take these moments to, just take a moment and feel good
Yeah.
about the win before we move
Hmm.
on and think about the next problem or the next milestone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 You're preaching to the choir. I have tons of companies in my world. I'm coaching founders all the time of like, yeah, I know Facebook changed something. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We
Yeah,
got to
no,
figure
believe
that
me,
out too, you know?
Yeah, I've been going to conferences, I've been talking to people, I've been talking to creators, and yeah, I'm figuring out kind of how the algorithm works a little bit more, and we're getting more out of it. But the hardest thing now with the new algorithm is volume, right?
Yeah.
You can't just put out 3 or 4 ads and then because you don't have the option you can't manually do anything. You have to rely on
Right.
the AI
Yeah.
100%. It's not even a
Hmm.
choice anymore. There was
I
this
know.
period where it was a hybrid, and it was funny for us. We couldn't even use the AI because there wasn't a age restriction on the AI,
Mm.
which meant that we couldn't even use it. We had to do
Yeah.
everything manually. And then it was like, oh, the age restriction came in. Then we're doing a little bit of both. And then all of a sudden now it's like, you don't have a choice.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah,
and
I've had a love-hate relationship because I got so much compliance. I run mostly ads for fundraising, right? So like AI is not going in through and doing FINRA and SEC compliance on our ads. So like, shut that off. And I swear, I made a whole video where I was like, I set them all up. I turned all the AI off and I videoed it. And I come back the next day and it's all back on. I was like, I know I didn't do this. Like I videotape myself, but they're just pushing it, and you're like, I know it's back on. It's back on.
oh,
The
dude,
client
yeah.
sees it. And I'm like, I swear to God, I didn't make that. It's out.
There's
Yeah.
no accountability. And I mean, Meta is really annoying because we spend a lot on Meta, and I get a
Hmm.
new account executive every
Oh yeah.
quarter, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll call me and they're like, it's always like, and I like it when I get a dude with an Indian accent because I'm like, okay, this dude probably knows what's going on, right? And then sometimes I get a dude that I'm like, okay, this guy's high as a kite right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm in California. A lot of people are getting stoned out here, but I'm like, do it on your own time. Don't keep pushing me on a carousel while you're stoned out of your mind. You know what I mean? Or their pixel over attributes. They maybe put a pixel at a spot and then it started
Hmm.
attributing people that actually added to cart as a sale, as a
As a
conversion. The
sale.
guy's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're converting people at $1.20. Why aren't you spending more money? I'm like, because it's not real data.
That's not real.
And Google under attributes, so we use like Triple Whale to kind of get real data
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
And it's just really frustrating. And
It's hard.
lately, I had 3 different account people, and every time I'm going, why do you guys keep changing every quarter? I want somebody that
Yeah.
knows my brand. And first of all, like you're making the same suggestions, and I'll do it, and it doesn't even work. And I
Yeah.
talk to my marketing team, and they're way ahead of you. But then
Hmm.
I've had 3 people in the last 3 weeks that say, I'm your new Meta executive, and what they do is they schedule me in a meeting, and I don't even know
Hmm.
how they get in my calendar. That's what's mind blowing to me. Like,
Oh,
I never
well.
agreed to a meeting, but there's a meeting with Meta in my calendar. I'm like, the fuck is that? Like, how did you even? And now
Yeah.
I'm
They're
mad
wild.
about that because it's like, don't set a meeting with me that I didn't even approve. And then
Yeah.
they call me, and then I'm just mad at the new
Yeah.
stranger, and I'm like, stop it.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir over here. I'm dealing with all that. I'm in the same boat over here. Well, where should we send people as we kind of wrap up here? I mean, you had a really interesting brand. This is awesome. I've got a couple things offline we could talk about too in my world in terms of my men's club and stuff. But yes, like where should we send people? How can they dive into your world?
We ended our WeFunder campaign. We raised a decent amount of capital. We're in the process of closing a celebrity for a decent amount of capital right now.
Hmm. Sure.
But we are doing Reg D right now for qualified investors. So email me at Say Whiskey, and that's at EY because it's American
Okay.
whiskey. Say Whiskey at vinebarrels.com. And if you're serious, and look, what's really cool about what we're doing, because we don't have any debt and the rate that we've grown and we're continuing to grow, our whiskey subscription model is going to continue growing because we've got it dialed in. What somebody's investing in is what we're about to go into. We've 20x the brand in 3 years, mainly because I undervalued it at the start. Well, I should have done 1 million instead of 500,000. So technically,
Hmm.
we 10x the brand in
Yeah.
3 years. But I got a plan to 12x it, to expand into other categories I haven't even talked about, on this program. And so what's really cool is you're not just going to be a part of this new rift that we're doing and this big, big upside, no supply chains and massive, massive profit, model, but you're going to get a part of the thing that's already successful.
That's cool.
We're looking for, and we want people that want to be a part of us. I mean, it's fun to say you're a partner in a whiskey company.
Hmm.
It's like, I'm just invented. invested in a new dentistry practice. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can we change the
Yeah.
topic? You know, so
Or
like,
another AI widget. That's every day I have about, or every week I have about 6 calls with an AI company that's raising capital. I don't know. I don't know.
oh, there's
Yeah.
there's there's a ton
Yeah.
of them, and it's
Yeah.
constant, right? But yeah,
Yeah, it
we're
is.
and we've done something innovative, and we're about to do it again in a lot of really cool ways, and we're looking for people that want to be a part of us.
Very cool. Well, Bobby, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you're busy. This is a great conversation. I will put, for anybody listening, go to the show notes. I'll have all the links anywhere that you need to click to get over and dive into the world. Bobby, again, thank you so much for your time. This is a great, great conversation. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you so much.